G'day folks, and it's time for this morning's philosophy. In primitive times, men are best led by religion. Good morning folks, and it's time for this morning's philosophy. In primitive times, people were best led by religion, as in a pitch black night. A blind man is the best guide. He knows the paths and roads better than a man who can see. But when daylight comes, however, it is foolish to use blind old men as guides. Heinrich Heine, Gedenken an Einfahler.
Betty Campbell, MBE. She was, as described, the first black head teacher in Wales. She was 82 when she passed away in 2017. And this statue is really impressive. There's a lady in front of it, but I've got past her.
With the difference in the shoelaces and the Velcro shoes, the little girl with her purse reading.
And she's reading about Betty Campbell, and there's a portrait of Betty Campbell in the book.
Up here, Shannon, please.
We're a good example to the rest of the world how you can live together regardless of where you come from or the colour of your skin. And then it's repeated again in Welsh below it. It's interesting that an acorn tree is symbolic of wisdom, strength and courage. And when you look closely, the bottom of her bust here turns into an acorn tree. There's acorns and leaves and many acorns that have fallen onto the ground.
Fascinating. I don't know what people do.
Welcome to Cardiff Castle, in Cardiff of course. Well, this is inside the main grounds, but before all this section was built, the original castle was that. And all the times that we talk about a motte being an elevated land, this is the finest example we can see. And then you keep on top, and it is magnificent. So on top of the castle, we've got a mansion here, which is a Gothic Revival mansion. We'll get better views of it shortly because there's a bit of a carnival atmosphere going on inside the grounds here. But there is a big curtain wall around here. That's not part of the original castle. This is built much later. But back to the castle itself, which is really impressive. It was built on top of a 3rd century Roman fortification, and it was built in the 11th century. And it was commissioned by either William the Conqueror or Robert Fitzhamon. This is the library of the 3rd Marquis, and he's got some absolute classics in here. What does he see over here? Well, he's got Samuel Pepys, Sir Walter Scott. Over here he's got the full collection of George Eliot. Oh, here we go.
Byron.
So included in his collection is also Lord Tennyson, Jane Austen. A bunch of school children came through, so back to our observations about the books. He's got the full collection of Dickens. All those green books are all Dickens. He's got, oh wow, this one was interesting. Charitable donations, 1786 to 1788. Encyclopedia Britannica, which maybe I'll change our quote of the day. I'll bring it to you from Denis Diderot because he was the original author of the Encyclopédie. He was a French 17th century philosopher who wanted all information to be brought together and put into one book, hence the birth of the Encyclopedia. And he was heavily criticised for some of the things that he wrote in there because they were inconsistent with religious beliefs, like suggesting that the planet was a little bit older than 5,000 years. And Denis Diderot, one of my favourite quotes from him was, "No man has from nature inherited the right to command his fellows."
As we were coming through, there's a lot of school children coming through, and it looks like they're all in grade 1. so they're about 5, and I noticed with all the teachers, they're speaking Welsh to them. And I was listening to a couple of children answer when the teachers were saying something to them, and they were answering back in English. And I thought to myself, this is fabulous, learning your native tongue.
This is called the Arab room. I just backed out of it to come in and record because this is pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
How good's that look?
Arabic. Wow. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. White marble. Jeez Louise.
This banqueting hall has seen guests and diplomats from all over the world, including Barack Obama, who's dined in here.
Months ago, that His Majesty the King granted an audience to the First Minister of Wales, and that is what is being shown on the pictures around. Now, normally you go to another room, that area is...
So the King was in there a couple of months ago, was he? I didn't expect to see that up there.
Oh, Richard III.
In Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government the final note, thinking that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Inside these war tunnels, inside the walls here, they had wooden ramps from the outside, so when an air siren raid, or an air siren would ring, up to 1,800 people walking the streets of Cardiff could run up the wooden ramps and into these tunnels where they had makeshift bedding and little canteen that could serve hot drinks whilst they could sit out the air raid from the Germans. So here we are inside the keep of Cardiff Castle. That used to be a fireplace there. And this is a lot smaller than I'd expected. It'd only be about 20 metres in diameter, if that. So inside the keep here, back in the 11th century, the most famous prisoner they ever had in here was Robert Curthose. Remember, so called because of the pants that he wore. Remember Robert Curthose? We'd spoken about him a few weeks ago because he was the eldest son of William the Conqueror, and he was incarcerated in here for the last 8 years of his life, dying at 83, so he was obviously very well taken care of. Cardiff Arms Stadium off in the distance there. And the Cutest little guard tower in here. Look at that. They have a fire to keep themselves warm. Well, here we are in St John the Baptist Church in Cardiff. This is, other than Cardiff Castle, this is the only other medieval building in Cardiff. It's been somewhat modified, or modernised, I should say, which is, well, it's their decision, but sometimes when they're left as just stone, they can be nicer. This church was built in 1170, and it was to take pressure off St Mary's Church, which stood for a little over 600 years in Cardiff, but unfortunately due to a major flood, St Mary's was pulled down and then rebuilt elsewhere. And this chapel here, it's quite an impressive building. It became a Grade 1 listed building in 1952. The organ here was built in 1894 by Father Willis, and it's quite impressive when you look at the finish that he managed to get on there. As we were walking down the street, Mum made this observation that the front of the church, the steeple, looked out of whack with the rest of the street. And sure enough it is. Something's amiss here. How good? Caerphilly Castle, the largest castle in Wales, second largest castle in Britain, second only to Windsor Castle. Now this is the late medieval period. This was built in the 13th century by Gilbert de Clare. Unfortunately it's closed, absolutely gutted, but we're going to go all around it, film it from the outside, have a talk about it and get some great photos. Let's go. I'm about to include a screenshot image and you'll see that this island of stone that's freestanding here, it's never corroded, it was built like that, but it did have an additional part up here. Smack bang in the middle of the photo that I'm about to flash, you'll see what it once looked like. I wonder what happened on this day in history.
On this day in history, the 21st of December in 1620, the Mayflower and its passengers, pilgrims from England, landed at Plymouth Rock, Massachusetts. On this day, 21st of December 1937, Snow White was screened. I didn't know it was that old, did you?
No.
There you go.
Also, the 21st of December is the winter solstice. This morning they would have dropped the barriers around Stonehenge and several thousand people would have been able to walk around the stones themselves. Yeah, because it was the next 3 days will be the shortest days in the Northern Hemisphere. And for those who study mythology of all kinds, it'll take 3 days from today for the sun to start to rise again.
Yep.
Sun down for 3 days, rises again.
Yep.
Those who don't believe in a creator deity and the story of Jesus' resurrection recognise this as where the origin of that story comes from.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking around to the end. I just want to add one more point of interest. I'm going to show you a photo of the leaning tower within the walls of Caerphilly Castle. And although it's considerably shorter than the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it is on a greater angle. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is leaning at 3.99 degrees. This tower in Caerphilly Castle is leaning at 10 degrees. It's been stabilised, so you're able to go up and enjoy it from inside and up to the top of it, but it is a considerable lean. I thought that was a very interesting fact.